3, 2, 1, and you're live.
Hey guys, welcome back to episode 2 of Exude Spotlight Artist Podcast. My name is Shaemus. I'm joined by
Mitvalsky and Sam Sharkey. We're your two other co-hosts. Today we have a very special guest with us. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Arnt Mae.
So, what sort of music are you into?
Me, in terms of artists that I like and everything, quite a plethora of artists. But for myself and how I write, I just am really inspired by people who are quite good with their lyrical writing. People like Florence and the Machine, Kendrick Lamar. They're like real standouts for me. They're quite emotional as artists, which I'm quite emotional. But also at the same time, I like to be quite comedic as well with it. I think you need to have a little bit of fun every now and then.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And just for the listeners out there, could you give a bit of a bio about yourself and your music?
Oh, God.
I mean, sorry to put you on the spot like that, but you know, the people want to hear.
Oh, look, Shaemus wrote a really good bio for me. So you can check that out on the new website that will be up soon. Link in the fucking description
Or you
right
can
down
source
there.
our Exude management websites up on there as well.
There you go. Right there. Yeah.
So, we picked you up recently, we as an Exude.
Mm-hmm.
How did we find you? Like, what is it from your perspective?
Well, it was really cool. So during the fires and stuff that were happening in Australia, we had like a fire appeal in Brunswick, and I got asked to perform there that night. I'm not sure which artist you were watching that night
Young
specifically.
Marta.
Young Marta, yeah. He was really cool as well. But yeah, that night I just sort of went at it, did my whole set. I had like a voodoo doll like stuck on like my like mic stand and everything. And after the show, you approached me, and that was really cool. Like I was discussing before with a friend of mine, how it's really interesting. People will always appreciate art because like it's just a beautiful thing to watch someone be passionate about what they love. But it's really cool when someone stops and they're like, hey, I like what you do and I want to be there for you and like follow like your dream and see how far we can push you, because I believe you have the capability of doing that. And when you sat me down with your team, it was really cool to see that, because it's really hard to find people who are not just all talk and who actually act on it. Like these guys, like every single time we discuss doing something, you're never like, no, we can't do that. You're always like, yeah, let's go for it. Like if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right, go hard, you know. And that's awesome. And especially like, you know, being young as well, like you've got a lot of passion in you, you know, and that's really exciting. It got me like really hyped, and like for once in my life I was like, you know what, like I feel like I've got the capability of doing this. Like I knew that on my own, but like I feel even more like strengthened by the people around me now. Like I feel like, wow, I can do this. Like I've got like an army behind me almost.
I feel like that.
Yeah.
Like, it works both ways. Like for the artist, it gives you that little extra push. It's like, okay, someone believes in me. Let's give it the best crack, so that, you know. And it works the same with the manager. It's like, you know, the artist believes in what I'm able to do and like thinks that I'm able to help in some sort of way, and that's a huge amount of drive for a manager or a booking agent or whoever.
And from an artist perspective, it's really good not just to have a kind of like managerial relationship with the people who are handling your stuff. It's really good to have like a personal relationship and a friendship with the people that are managing your music and managing your projects. And yeah, I feel very lucky that we definitely have that. And Exude's a very tight-knit group, and it's a very supportive and community-based
Well, I'm
group.
getting praise out the gates. Holy shit.
Yeah, we've been talking
thanks,
shit
guys.
on you all day, but now the
Fucking
cameras
hell.
are rolling.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I saw you come out without a DJ. All you had was a mic. And there was a voodoo doll strapped to your mic stand, right? Immediately I was like, okay, what the fuck is this? And like it grabbed my attention. I was about to leave. It was the set after the show that I was going to go watch.
Yeah.
And it was like
that was
Sunday,
hard, because he went
Sunday.
hard on his set, and I was like, damn it. You know, like sometimes when lineups are made, it's made in a certain way where it just makes people sort of shine more than others. Sounds really crap, but it happens. Like you'll be put either like first, and it's like, cool, you have to hype everyone up, or like you'll be put at the end, and it's kind of like when everyone's sort of wrapping up, and you're just like, okay, well, I'm done. Like
That's something we all have to deal with, definitely, as artists
like
playing
really
empty rooms
the
and
placement, man.
missing the peak of the
something
gig.
to expect for a lot of musicians coming up. Like you can't just expect to have headliner sets.
It was like U time. We're deviating, but we threw U time, and it was fairly awkward for me because I had three of my bands on the lineup, and there was 9 bands on the lineup. So it was like, there's always politics. It's like, if someone's going to play before the other, then it's like, oh, Shaemus doesn't like us as much as this band. Or it's like, you know what I mean? So it's hard to find it right, even for, someone on my side, like actually choreographing it all. But, it's just a part of the game.
And definitely from an artist perspective, you just need to put it aside and just kind of feel like grateful that you're playing.
Exactly.
Because the time's really secondary. If you play enough shows, you'll work up to the times that you want, which is important to have in your head. Like no band plays their first show and they're playing at the peak hour of the gig, and it just doesn't happen.
You always got to appreciate and respect your audience. Like if you're playing to a room of 10 people or 1,000 people, you got to show the same amount of respect. And
that's the thing. So I see Vanessa walk on a stage with a Arnt Mae Vanessa, just to clarify, her name's Vanessa. I see her come out with a voodoo doll strapped to her mic stand, and there wasn't any DJ, so she just starts beatboxing and spitting to keep the crowd there, so the crowd doesn't leave. I was like, okay, like she knows what she's doing, and then I was just like zoned in for 30 minutes of the set, and like I brought Louis down with me, one of my artists, one of the first artists I picked up, and he was just fucking losing it. He was like in awe, and so was everyone else. Like, you're incredible. Like you're great at what you do. So yeah, I'm super stoked to have you on the lineup and appreciate the confidence in me.
Thank you. Like I said, like it really means a lot to have someone like really believe in what I'm capable of and just sort of encourage that more. I feel like I've grown a lot in like the last couple of months. I just feel very strengthened by the people around me, and that's really, really awesome. Like, it's just really hard. Sometimes you can be a bit disheartened as an artist as well as a creative. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're a creative, it's really hard to sort of keep that faith in yourself to be like, no, I'm good at what I do. Like, I'm killing it. Like, I'm the best out there in what I do. It's like, that's hard to tell yourself every day. You have to convince yourself otherwise. But like to have that extra support and see people be like, wow, like they see that passion, that drive, and then they have the same amount of drive. Like it's another level of, it's just another level, man. So
well, I'd say it's a lot easier to have self-doubt in yourself than to have confidence. Like confidence is something that you really have to work on.
Yeah, confidence is a process for sure.
Definitely. Right, so
the board.
Listening to your music, you convey a lot of like beautiful emotion. Could you talk through us about your creative process and how you go about like starting and finishing a song?
See, that's an interesting one. I've been asked that before. People are like, how long does it take you to finish a song? It really varies. It just depends on like what I'm feeling in that time. Like, I've written some songs that are quite dark and like, I've been in from like when I was in a bad space. And they've turned out really beautiful because of that emotion that I'm conveying through it. Like for me, like I deal with a lot of like I've got like mental health that I've been dealing with in myself. Like everyone obviously like goes through depression or anxiety. If you don't, like that's cool as well. But like those two things really help me write a lot. I was showing a song to my friend before, and he was just sort of like, well, that's crazy how you went from like writing this and then being able to like create that into a song like from that like chaos, which is really cool. So for me, it's not a matter of like a time frame, but like what I'm feeling at the time. So like some songs I'll like get like done in like one day because I'm just I'm in that emotion and I'm just like right there in it, and that's probably the best time to write because you're being true and honest to yourself. And then there's other times where I'll just sort of like, especially like I feel like with like I live through other people's experiences as well because I have a lot of empathy. Like I just feel like if someone told me, oh, like something simple like, or they're really excited about something, I'll be just as excited about them if I can see that passion through them. Or if they're like sad about something that happened that was really bad, like I'll almost cry. Like I will feel that emotion. So it's really nice to have that ability to be able to write more because that gives me like I guess sort of more areas to play around with. So like particularly like I wrote a song for my friend that I recently released called Girl. And that song was actually about her and her experience with her ex-boyfriend, of how like he tried to keep her in that relationship even though he knew he was bad for her and that he was holding her back, but he just was so selfish in it that he just wanted to keep her around. And that was like really hard because like I had to ask her and be like, hey, can I write about this? Like, I know it's something like it means a lot to you and everything, and you're clearly going through this. Like, can I ask you about your experience and like write about it? And she said, yeah. And like I straight away like started writing because I got like a hook straight away from just hearing her talk about it. And it's really funny because like someone will be like telling me something like about their life, sitting there, and I'm just like, cool, I'm just like thinking of ideas. And they're just like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, nothing. Like, keep telling me. I'm listening. I'm definitely listening.
That's like a superpower.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, you know, it's one thing to write music and lyrics, I guess, from your own perspective, but definitely like being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes is it's really another skill and can take, you know,
and to translate
content,
them for, you know.
Can take it to another level. Like recently with all this time it's been imposed on everyone. I've had a crack at writing lyrics a little bit more, and I'm trying to write it from a more kind of depersonalized kind of storytelling place, like almost as if I'm kind of trying to write a little short story with like a plot in it, which is really fun to experiment with, because usually it'd be like about personal experiences, which is the easiest thing to write about because you can, you know, directly draw from something that's happened. But yeah, being able to get even more creative and let your imagination kind of run wild is something that I think, you know, takes a lot of focus. And, you know, when you do get that focus and, you know, just let your imagination take over, like, you know, the results can certainly, like, they can speak for themselves and be outstanding.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Nick Cave who said that being a songwriter is a 24-hour-a-day job, basically meaning that, like, you know, you don't just have to write about heartbreak or whatever, like, you can write from anything. Yeah, you can write great songs about like walking onto a train and going to the city or whatever. 100%. You know, like you can write a song about literally anything.
Yeah.
Some of your best ideas though, and I think we can all feel the same way, is like sometimes I can't sit in a studio and just write like while in there. Like I normally have to just be going about my day and then it just comes to me and I'll just be like, cool. Like I'll literally be in the most weirdest places and I'll just be like, I'm going to start writing. And then people are like, what the hell is she doing? I'm like, no, in my phone. And they're like, what is going on? I'm like, no, just leave me. Shut up.
It's actually like a fairly similar process for me.
Yeah.
I don't write music, but I try and come up with creative ideas to promote my artists and stuff like that. So I'll be sitting in my backyard, like, smoking cones as the typical Australian does, and yeah, like I'll you know, try and focus on emotions and stuff that could you know, spell some ideas for the artist or whatever.
Mine's always ticking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about like kind of the internal, I guess, process of music, you know, rehearsing it and drawing inspiration and, you know, constructing your songs and your art. But then the other side of music is being able to push it out to people, which is where the topic of live music comes in. Unfortunately, right now, live music is something that's being dearly missed.
Not as live.
From, you know, modern life. It's obviously all affected us in, you know, massive ways. That's the one thing I miss the most, I reckon, is being able to play a gig and see heaps of, you know, excited faces in the audience. But anyway, we won't dwell on the fact that it's gone for too long. We'll move on and talk about, you know, personal experiences kind of from us playing live shows and you from kind of witnessing the, like, inner workings of the live shows.
I should mention as well, though, that I sort of think it's a blessing in disguise that this is happening, because it really puts into perspective and gives you, like, you know, a real idea of what it means to you. Like I had gigs every Friday at Pride, and when the first Friday rolled around where there wasn't a gig, it was like it didn't feel like a Friday, you know. And I sort of took that for granted in a way. Like
I took the gigs. I felt like I've taken heaps of gigs for granted, and I kind of wish,
definitely.
I think everything, like with that, it's just routine though. Like when you're
Yeah.
in a routine, you just realize, like everyone right now must be like, oh wow, my routine's just totally different now because you've had to like put in place different things just to be able to like keep yourself, like, I guess just like not going insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we talked about last time, just it's a great time to get creative and write more music. You know, think about what's going to happen when you can gig and stuff. Refine things, make sure that you know, it's not a shot in the dark once like there's gigs on and stuff. Like think about the gigs are going to happen again. So
Yeah.
get creative, start thinking like what are you going to do, you know? Don't just like drop, like don't kill the dream.
What do you guys reckon, like, as artists, is your favorite thing about playing music live and like bringing it to people live in that format?
I was thinking about this today again, just really relevant stuff that we're talking about, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just with performing. I think that's the biggest thing that I feed off as an artist. Like for me, even before I started writing, it was just about being there and like feeling that energy. That's why it was like when you brought up like, you know, the live streaming, like, yeah, that's good. And there's definitely a platform for it. And like, especially with digital artists, like obviously there's like a little bit of a difference there. Like I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like we're more of the live type of artists.
Yeah.
Like we feed off the energy of the crowd. We're able to connect better because we're physically there.
Yeah.
It's
It doesn't translate to a screen. Like
Yeah.
it just doesn't. And like I had people say to me, look, do a live stream. Like the first week, everything was going bad. And I was just like, no, like you can't feel the bass. You can't, you know, feel or smell the smoke.
Yeah, there's a
Like-
difference between hearing music and
There's something-
feeling it
yeah.
with your body.
100%.
Yeah.
So that's why like the live stream we're working on is more of a TV show, I guess.
Mhm.
It's like, it's not really a, like just bands playing. We're
Yeah.
trying to make it, you know, full production or whatever.
Like it's a lot harder for the artist to like fully get into it and immerse yourself in the music when like, because you feed off the crowd,
Yeah.
obviously.
And I think some more than others. Like when I watched you, I was going to say when you were just talking, like you're an energy person, like you feed off energy. And like I could see that when you got everyone crowded around you, like when you were sitting on the edge of the stage, like that is the type of artist you are. But then there's, you know, artists that don't really mind too much whether there's energy or there's not. They'll just do whatever they do. You know what
like,
I mean?
I take the word feed literally. Like when
Yeah.
I'm there, it's so weird. Like I need, it's like a fix for me performing. It's like it sounds really cliche, but it is like a drug to me. Like when I'm not performing, I feel like just like, you know, like I just feel like weird. Like it just,
It's
I
that
need to get
adrenaline.
out and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
release some energy as well. Cause I am like I said, when I'm writing, I take in a lot of the people's energy and it kind of like comes into me.
Yeah.
And whether it's negative or positive, I feed in that. And the same thing when I'm like performing, I'm releasing that energy, but I'm also getting it
Yeah.
back. And
Yeah,
it's normally
100%.
really beautiful, the energy that I get back. It's just crazy. Like the feeling is intense.
That particular thing
Yeah.
is my favorite thing about playing live
Yeah.
music. I think definitely the goal, if you're playing live music, is to make there be something in the air and something in the energy that's there after you finish played that wasn't there initially when you were playing, and just being able to be on stage and feed a wavelength, you know, to however many people are out there, and to see them all pick up on that wavelength, so everyone kind of, you know, is hooked into
Yep.
each other, whether
Yeah.
you're, you know, I love that feeling you get playing live when there's so little separation between what, you know, the people in the crowd are feeling and what you're feeling.
And even if it's not a large crowd, sometimes even like the
Yeah.
smaller
Oh, they go
intimate
ham.
Oh, without a
crowds,
doubt.
like
They go
definitely.
ham.
yeah, like I don't know, like there's been a time where I was like performing and then I sat down and I was just like, I don't know, just holding everyone in the crowd and just like sort of embracing everyone. And I was like, this is intense. Like this is more intense than like performing to like a crowd of 4,000 people, which I've done before. And that's cool. But I feel like I kind of need that. Like that's
Intimacy.
why,
Yeah.
if I ever like, you know, get to that point where I'm performing to larger crowds, I still would
Yeah.
probably run
Oh.
into the fucking
Yeah.
crowd. Like I wouldn't even care about security. They'll be like, I'll be like, nah, like I'm going to like, I'm going to see how this feels and just like feed off everyone because this is what I'm here to do. This is what I want to do.
I feel like there's definitely a bit of a disconnect between like the ideas between, you know, bigger crowd sizes means, you know, better show.
Stadium shows suck.
Yeah. For example, like
So
when
bad.
when Franco played the Climate March, like that was great. That had like, you know, 40,000 people looking. but like I couldn't pick up on any energy because it was just all lost by all these,
And then you're thinking
Yeah.
too much about the performance
Yeah.
rather than just being in the performance. You
and
know what
like
I mean?
it was fine. It all went pretty much without a
Yeah.
hitch. But like, if you gave me the opportunity to do that again or play this small room with 50 people who are
Small
all
room.
going,
You could play
Yeah.
a small room.
100%.
You could play a small room with a lamp in the corner, and you're just using your voice, and that would have 10 times more energy than the Climate March show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when shows are bigger, like stadium shows, that's when the emphasis is on production. Like you need a show. You need the lighting to connect the crowd. You need the sound to be connecting with the crowd, like in ways that you don't need in a small intimate room.
Like I definitely would 100% prefer to play to like 10 people that really like are listening and like engaging with you and you're feeding off each other than to like 10,000 people who are just sitting there like filming on their phones and just kind of like not really watching and not really like connecting.
Yeah, I
It makes
reckon
it
if
a
I was
lot
to do a
harder.
show and like I'd just tell everyone, all right, everyone put your phones down, put
Yeah.
them away, turn them off.
This
Like
is
if I see anyone filming, I swear to God.
Yeah, this is a segue.
Yeah.
Best and worst live show experiences.
well, all the worst ones for me would have been back in the day when we were all 15, 14 and did not have a clue what we were doing. Like,
Speaking to your mic, Sam.
sorry. Consistently the guitars would be up way too loud. Alex's voice would be drowned out. We'd be, a bit out of tune.
Yeah.
Just absolutely no
Just
clue.
classic dancing dog sort of.
But they had to happen. I had to have those experiences to know that the main thing you need to have in your head on the day of a gig is I need to over prepare for this shit, because the amount of times there's been a gig where it's like, okay, sweet, plugging everything in. Where the fuck's my power supply? Where the fuck's my pick? You
Yeah,
know?
to borrow my power supply
need to embarrass
Lucky
yourself.
Drive to Sam's house and pick up a power supply. That is
Things
most
like
gigs.
strings as well. If in the we all
Gotta
make
change the
mistakes in
strings.
the heat of passion, and if you break a string, playing live, you don't want to
And
be
then,
that
yeah.
guy who goes into the crowd. Oh, can one of the support bands give me their guitar?
Oh, that's so awkward.
I was very happy to do it for you later.
Yeah.
It's a different relationship. You're not a support band to me, man.
Yeah, and you played before us.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go.
Yeah, no,
Doing him a favour.
that would be my worst and best experience. U-time, definitely.
Yeah.
Something just happened to my gear. I don't know what it was. I think it was the power supply.
It was in his head. It wasn't anything to do with the gear.
Okay, well, something went wrong and there was no sound. So clearly something
head.
went wrong.
Yeah.
Could you hear sound?
No,
Yeah.
no.
There was
His-
no
he-
sound.
What he's saying is valid. There was something in the chain.
There was something that
was
wasn't right.
interfering.
And I had to
Yeah.
His head.
get Sam's guitar.
Oh, you should have seen it. It was heroic, my effort. I dashed from the stage.
Still in tune and
all the way up the stairs. back out.
I got a chant during that.
You did.
You got his chant started.
Rory started a chant. He's
Where
on
the fuck was my chain? I was getting his guitar, man.
Yeah.
I was.
And you rolled me. And you
I
rolled
was-
me a cig. That was respect.
Me?
No, him.
No, I rolled him.
Oh,
a
you
cig
did roll
roll.
me a cig as well.
We look
Sorry.
after him, don't we?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
we really
Miss
do.
Princess. Best and worst experiences live.
I was trying to think because I'm pretty fucking amazing.
It doesn't have to be live. Like you've been
Hmm?
with Yo-Yo.
Nah, I think when I was younger, trying to figure it out, because there was like this space which was beautiful, but because I grew up in the country, so Oruudonga, yeah, shout out to Oruudonga.
Whoop-de-whoop.
But there was this space for like the young kids, which I loved performing in, because it just gave you a chance to sort of practice everything and all that. But there was one thing that always stuffed me up. Whatever they did with like the smoke machine, it just choked me up every single time.
I'll be like halfway
Yeah,
through
but you
like a
get
really
so
good lick,
dry.
and you
can't see your
I love
pedals?
the
it'll
smoke.
just be
That will be.
Yeah, like
Right in the face.
straight up
Trust
in
me,
there.
trust
Like
me,
you're
get
just
used to that.
inhaling the fumes. And
Get used to that.
I
it's
swear, Shaemus always presses that button at the most
smoke.
inopportune
You
time.
wait until we have a budget and I can use pyro and shit. I'll be at the back just.
in your lungs.
But you always do it right when I need to click a pedal.
Yeah,
and I'll
yeah,
just be
it's
like,
like-
oh, and then there's smoke and I can't see shit. And it's
Either
like,
that or I'll just turn
clicking home.
all the lights off so like the whole stage and the crowd's
Oh.
just completely black and then he can't pick his chords.
Yeah.
The worst time I could. Talking of worst live music experiences, he once did it. The smoke machine was. Oh shit! The smoke machine was right next to me, I was going on the floor to fiddle with a pedal. I come up, it looks like I've had a bong rip down there.
Speak to anyone that has ever played at Pride and they've experienced the same thing, without a doubt.
It's the worst when you're you're doing the vocals and everything, because it really does dry everything up. Like, I don't know. That was just what I first started experiencing. So I used to have to just prep and make sure my mouth was wet as fuck when I got on stage. So I literally like gargled water every time before a song. And that was really bad because I like developed bad habits. So I was like, I need to have like water every time before a song. It's like, no, you don't. Like, so I learned that like the hard way. Like that was like a dumb thing to do. But that was like,
it doesn't hurt to hydrate, you know?
It doesn't. It
Ritual.
definitely doesn't. But it kind of like ruins the flow of things.
Yeah.
Like, you should just be performing, you know? You shouldn't have to do that shit all the time. Mate. But that, and then in terms of like, you know, good performances or best performances, I think it would be the one that I had at Crown. And this is like
Slaps.
yeah, just
Get to the
Crown.
class.
Flex. But the reason why wasn't because it was at Crown. I mean, that was one of the reasons. But it was the fact that it was the first performance I had done in a long time, and it was all original. And that was crazy because the energy in the room from everyone, because everyone was hyped. It was like a hip hop gig for an artist who came over from the Philippines. And I was on the lineup, which was really sick. And I was probably like in a good position as well. I was probably like one of the two before the main artist came on. So I was really hyped. There was enough people in the crowd and everything. But I was so excited for it because like I've like only busked my songs up into this point.
Oh, really?
Do you still have your license? Do you still have your busking license?
Probably off.
How long ago
now.
was this?
Wow. Jesus, when was this? Last year, October?
So it wasn't even that long, like 6 months ago.
A little bit before, yeah. Insane. So I got up on stage and it was just the way everything was lit, just the amount of people that were there. I walked on stage and then like I had my back to the crowd and then I started doing my first song and people were just like, who the fuck? And I turn around and I just really get into it. And after my first song, it was just like this immense just cheer. And I was like, it was louder than any of the other cheers that night, other than obviously the artists. But it was just like, what the hell? Like, these people like me. They like really enjoyed what I just did. And that's my own song. Like to have that, like when you're busking, like people will give you money and they'll like, you know, show appreciation. They'll like come up and be like, yeah, you're really good. But that's like one or two people at a time. This was like a whole room of people who were just like, what the? Like just going off their nut.
Was that the show before your last? Have you played 2 shows in the past 6 months, or how many shows have you played?
Like officially, probably 3.
You just like everyone. Wait, when she's ready to go, you're gonna know her name. Like I'm. That's all I'm saying. Like incredible music coming. Like
yeah. But that was fun, and then I got out the paint.
Paint.
Yeah, I got paint. You would have loved it. So I've got this song called.
Sounds like a mess.
Yeah, it was. Actually, I kept it clean. I'm messy, but I'm clean. But yeah, so there was this paint that I got out and put like just on a piece of cardboard, but I had it like just on the side of the stage. And there's a song called Envy, and I talk about like being green with envy in the song, and it's a heavy rap song, and it's just like goes hard sort of thing. I get real like aggro with it. It was the last song I do in my set, and like just you should have seen the lighting and everything. It was like trippy, it was like creepy, like people were scared of me, but at the same time like, oh, like I like this. And it was just this, like it was so hyped up, and I got the paint and then like started smearing it all over my face, and like people were just watching it like going, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like it was just, again, like I like to do theatrical stuff like that, just to add that element of like surprise.
You're not
for
just
people.
playing music, you're performing it.
Yeah, like properly. And it was, I cried after my set, like hard, like just cried, because like the energy that I had from all those people just like loving it and coming off the stage, like it was intense. Like, yeah. Oh, I feel like I'm living it again just thinking about it. Like I haven't really talked about it since then. Like sometimes after you do a gig, you're just like, cool, we did it. And then you're just like, let's go get Macca's. Like that's like, I was like, I need my chicken nuggets.
A memorable show.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That hands down the Crown gig, coming back from not doing any gigs for a long time and then just doing a massive one like that, doing all originals on my set, like none of it was covers. That was,
Where
intense.
Crown Groove?
In the top bit.
The top bit.
The top bit. It's a pretty sick venue. Yeah.
My most, I wouldn't call it like the worst or the best. It's just like the most memorable experience at a live show was a show I put on at Pride with a group. I won't say the name of the group, but it was a rap show, and we had probably like 6 performers on the night. And the week before, I get a call from the police, and they go, "So the show you're putting on this Friday, shut it down." And I'm like,
why?
That's what I was saying. And then they were like, okay, so a gig they did a year ago, someone lost their life or got extremely injured, and like they sort of blamed it on the group. So I was like, look, that happened a year ago. These people are also of like, you know, African descent or whatever, so like there might be a bit of stereotyping or something. So I'm like, all right, well, look, if I have to shut down the show, I'll do it, but like you have to prove to me that like you're legally forcing me to shut down the show. And they're like, look, we'll take it to the deputy commissioner and she'll decide what the outcome is, if it goes ahead or not. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Shaemus, you go hard, man. Just
No,
hearing
no.
this story, like, so the deputy talked to me.
Yeah.
Most
and
people would just be like, all right, done, shut it down.
Yeah.
Shaemus goes,
Well, I'm
yeah,
like,
you're like, all right,
Shaemus goes
prove
in.
to me.
Yeah,
Why?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wanted
Shaemus
it to
goes
happen. And I'm not just going to, like, you know, fold or whatever. So eventually she calls me up or calls the venue up and goes, you know, if it happens, we're going to have, you know, 3 uniformed police officers in the venue the entire night. We're going to have divvy vans parked out the front, like all of this extra stuff. And I'm like,
That looks cool, though. That makes it look
yeah,
like,
but it's going to start something. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those boys are going to like arc up.
I gotta. That's just.
Yeah, so I was like, look, if you want to do that, we'll do it, but it's going to make the situation worse. So
I
like,
mean, they're kind of just, you know, almost there to provoke, to almost
Yeah,
provoke
right.
something.
Like,
more.
you're not preventing anything.
Yeah,
You're
you're not
starting
preventing
something.
anything. Yeah.
So eventually, it comes to the day. It's Friday, and we're setting up, and 2 cops walk in. They're like, "Okay, we're just surveying the area, you know, making sure we know where everything is, just in case something happens." They leave. So the artists don't rock up. Doors open at 7:30. No one's here. They've got a gig in the city as well, so they don't rock up. It's like 9:00 now. We have like 100 like kids of African descent out the front of the out front of the venue with like 6 police cars there. No one's inside. No one's paid a cent. Then the artist rocks up, and the guy that I was organizing it with rocks up. They get in. All of these 100, like, I'm not exaggerating. Like, we had 4 secchies on this night because like we usually have 2. Matt was like, we need to be prepared for this. I'm like, oh, cool. So we have 4 secchies on.
What do you mean by secchies?
Security guards.
Oh, security.
Yeah. Shout out to John, the best security
I
guard
love
in the
John.
fucking
John.
world.
Best.
If you ever
Awesome.
go to Pride
John.
and you see John, tell him you love him because
He's a
he
good
deserves
man.
the love.
He's a good man.
Yeah.
He's a kind soul.
The 100, you know, kids downstairs
yeah.
start walking up, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this at all. Like, it was crazy. They walked up. Darcy's sitting on the door. If you've ever been to Pride, you see Darcy on the door. He works the door. He works in Exude. Almost all 100 of them try and walk past the security and Darcy without paying a cent. They're all saying like, "Oh, we're artists. Like, okay, cool. We let like half of them in without paying because we just want to put up with it. Yeah, we prefer them to buy drinks so we make money through that way.
Yeah.
And then it comes to like we have the first 3 artists on. The headline is about to come on or whatever, and the organizer comes up to me and he goes, "Our headline has been arrested. He had a warrant and he was out the front and the cops locked him up." So then we had like 100 people in the venue that were all like potentially going to completely flip it because this dude's been locked up. They're all here to see this one guy who's been locked up.
The openers get to play?
Yeah, they got to play.
Okay.
But it ran smoothly for what it was, but it was like one of the most stressful nights of my life. I had Matt, so the venue owner I should mention as well, Matt, he's the most amazing guy in the world as well. He's going to me like, "Look, Shaemus, I trust you, but like we have cops lined up out the front, like sort of like my name's on the name of the venue. You know what I mean? Like I don't want
It's
to."
your head on the chopping block.
Exactly. So I'm like, "Look, Matt, like I'll try and make sure everything goes as smooth as possible." Thankfully, apart from the one guy who got arrested, nothing else really happened.
Yeah.
But that was a crazy show.
I think I think
Yeah.
that's kind of a sad reflection, or almost on where the kind of industry still is at, and it still has a lot of. I think it's kind of a sad reflection of the shortcomings of the industry and how a lot of people are prone to,
Yeah,
blow things out.
I would say that there's like that is the only experience I've had close to that.
Yeah,
And that was a very
yeah.
select group of people, and people that I know that know those people also sort of said, like, be careful. So, I mean, yeah, you gotta be aware, listen to the people around you. But yeah, that was a pretty crazy
I think
one.
we had a track record of like 3 gigs in a row where we had cops come up, like rock up. It was so
Red
funny.
Fairy.
Yeah, we had our first one in Will's backyard. We got shut down by the police, and then we had one at the Dog that cops came, but they didn't shut it down. And then I think we had another one at the Dog where cops came. And there's photos you can see, like the blue and red lights in the window behind us playing. So funny.
Yeah, that's the important thing. Underages, as soon as there's underage people there, the percentage of and likelihood of cops coming just increases tenfold. So if you are an underage person listening,
do the right
look,
thing.
I'm not going to tell you to stop going to gigs because, like, obviously that's not going to work, and that's, I'd be just being hypocritical. But just please remember that you can fuck up the night if you put a foot wrong. So
100%.
Be smart.
And
Don't
not
be
even
stupid.
not even fuck up the night. Like you can fuck up someone's life. Like if you get the venue in trouble for drinking when you're not meant to, that's a $30,000 fine.
Yeah.
And a place like Pride can't afford a $30,000 fine. You know what I mean? So like I just
you got to weigh it up. Do you want to bring your goon sack in and get caught drinking in the toilets and bust the venue
And
for life, or do you
Don't-
want to continue to see music play?
Don't be selfish
Yeah,
about it,
yeah.
Like you got to think.
yeah.
Obviously, I would never disencourage anyone from going to gigs, but if you're gonna go, be respectful of the venue, be respectful of the artist, be respectful of the audience. Don't do stupid things that could potentially have a bad outcome.
Yeah, because everyone goes to a live show to essentially to have a good time and unwind. And the last thing we want as artists is someone's been decked at your show, someone's been taken away by the cops, someone's been caught drinking and you're all out. So please just remember there's etiquette.
You put so many people at risk when you disregard.
Don't be selfish.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll come for you.
Yeah, so we've gone over a bit of do's and don'ts kind of from like an audience perspective. What about from, artist perspective, like do's and don'ts playing live shows? We've talked about getting prepared. Is there anything else?
I think the biggest thing to remember, apart from being prepared for your set, is just show respect and treat other artists, treat the audience how you want to be treated. Don't, if the venue says, hey, load-in's at 6:30, make sure you're there and you're ready to load in at 6:30. Don't be those guys.
Half an hour
that
earlier.
have to wait.
Rock up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't be those guys. And if you need to borrow gear or whatever, because stuff happens, don't be an arsehole about it.
People have to realize that when you're playing a live show from an artist perspective, you are automatically taking on obligations. You're taking on obligations to the other bands that are playing to be respectful, bring your own gear, and not damage gear or be a leech or stuff like that. You've got obligations to the venue, not to get them in trouble, as we've already covered. You've got obligations to your crowd to keep them safe, to call out behaviour in the crowd that's unacceptable, which we have had to deal with
Really?
more times than we would like to.
What examples?
Well,
I'm kind of
this
keen
really
to know.
pains me to say, but gig culture can become quite toxic, especially in the way women are related to gig going. I've had too many female friends that have came to me after a show and after a great show and just said, my night's been ruined because someone was groping me during the mosh, and that just absolutely sucks
that
to
is
hear as an
that is a
artist, 'cause you're
topic.
like, I thought everyone was on the same wavelength, and I thought I was really doing good and helping people express themselves, but some dickheads used my music, and me playing live as an opportunity to
Not even just at
That's
gigs, just in
horrible.
general. Just fuck that. Don't be that person.
call it out as well.
Call it out. Do something about it.
Definitely.
Don't stand for that shit. Like,
If you're an artist, you've got an obligation to the safety of the people playing.
100%.
And this doesn't just apply to scenarios such as like, you know, sexual assault, although that is very serious. You know, mosh culture is important as well. If people are going wild to your show, that's good, but you want to make sure they're going wild and not injuring everyone.
No one's getting hurt that doesn't want to get hurt.
Yeah, exactly. You know, get hurt responsibly.
Yeah.
I'd like to mention on that as well. Like, I never really noticed it, like that sort of like sexual assault, sort of like the gig culture that, you know, sometimes goes that way.
Yeah.
I never really noticed it until obviously I started really going to gigs, and when I started bartending. Like, it is, like, I can't even describe, like, the uncomfortability that, like, it creates when someone's, you know, going further than what they should, when it's clearly, you know, don't do that.
And
you know what I mean?
Really, like, it's easy to kind of dismiss it and say, oh, it's just a one-off thing.
Yeah.
But, like, it's really not. Like, you know, even at bars like Pride, which is probably the most inclusive place in the western suburbs,
Definitely.
you're gonna get creepy dudes there.
Yeah.
And you know, it just pains me so much that it's actually a culture problem. It's not an individual problem.
I had a really long conversation with Matt, the owner of Pride, about this after a bartending shift where I was working with some other people, and one of the bartenders was assaulted, and like she just didn't really seem like there was no reaction from her, which I was like, okay, that's odd. And she's like, it happens so frequently that it doesn't it's not that it doesn't affect me anymore, but I don't, you know, show that it affects me because, you know, that's what they're after or whatever. I'm like, that totally makes sense. And then the day after that, I called Matt and I was like, look, we've got to completely redo whatever policies you've got, and we've got to make it way more clear. We've got to start making more of an effort to, and like Pride is, I would say,
crack down on people like
definitely,
that.
and
It's not okay.
No,
and
not
they
at
think
all.
it's cool. They're like, oh, but I was just mucking around. I was like, shut up.
Yeah.
No, you weren't.
Yeah.
Like, you don't understand how this affects someone, how you've ruined their night, how you've just ruined everything for them. And like, also it makes them feel uncomfortable to come to spaces like that as well.
That's honestly the main thing I kind of worry about playing live. Like, don't get me wrong, I love playing live shows and it's one of my favorite things to do. But there's always, now that I've had it happen, especially when there's kind of a larger number of people and I can't really keep an eye on what's happening, it's kind of in the back of my mind, like, fuck, you know, do I need to be vigilant here? But then it's like stage lights in my eyes.
Well, then you've also
kind of that added level of paranoia.
But it's justified. Like, you have a little sister that's typically in the crowds. Like, it makes sense. You know what I mean?
It's just fucked up that
you shouldn't have to.
be
Exactly.
Like, I
that
should be
just
worried.
shows
That's
there's a
not
huge
your
problem.
responsibility. You know,
I should be
to
worrying
do that,
about
but
playing music. I shouldn't have to worry about dickheads and
the extremely
doing
frustrating
things that
thing
they
is
shouldn't
it's
have
like
to.
10% of men, or like there's a percentage of men that do it, and then that gives
And they fuck it up.
the rest of everyone
fuck it
else
up for the rest
that
of us.
bad rep. You know, it's
Yeah,
so annoying, so frustrating.
Yeah.
It's like you want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, you just have to be
At the
cautious.
same time,
Yeah, you
it's
can't.
such it's a culture problem, and it's not one that we address.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is something that I've wanted to touch on.
Yeah,
but I'm
sure.
glad we sort of went down
it's
there.
It's almost like,
conversation.
do at your gigs, do you like warn people of like, we will be watching out for this behavior because it's happened? Blah,
We
blah,
had a
blah.
security guard fired because the security, his job was to prevent what he did to
and
a minor.
he was doing it.
To a minor.
I've had that happen.
Like, that is,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's really wrong. Like, it normally happens as well. Like, not all the time, because again, like case by case. But like, I've come across people who are in power and they use that to get away with stuff.
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
leverage.
so wrong. It's so wrong. Like, you have a responsibility in your position to look after people, and you're doing this.
Yeah.
How does that make us feel? Like, we feel like we're just, it doesn't matter what we do. At the end of the day, we're still going to...
I should trust to not have to
And
worry about this.
Yeah.
You're the person to help me if those situations occur.
And it's not a one-off thing. There's so many powerful men that are just like leveraging either their money or their power to get what they want. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Joe Exotic.
Yeah, the music industry does have a lot of kinks in regards to that kind of stuff. I'd say we move on now to kind of venues and what some green flags / red flags are from an artist perspective. And the main thing that I would say on this is, if you're a venue manager, while you've got the artist in there, you've got to recognize and accept that they're doing you a service by playing. You know, it's a mutual kind of thing, and you should almost kind of view them as temporary employees.
Yep.
what the
There's a
services that are
specific
providing.
venue that really rings a bell when you talk about that. I'm not going to name
Yeah,
them.
we
Red
won't
flags?
name it. We won't
Yeah,
name it.
yeah.
Just taking, especially things like a red flag for me is taking advantage of the hard work that you put in and laziness. Like a lot of, this is unfortunate, but a lot of venue kind of music managers out there are very lazy. They'll take ages to respond. And this is not trying to knock anyone that's a venue manager, because obviously they'd be busy with a lot of bands, but you know, just how kind of blunt and unorganized they can be. Like we had a certain venue, which I won't name, kind of give us 3 different dates. We picked the one clearly in the messages, and then, you know, one of the other dates rolls up and they say, "Are you playing today?" So,
Yeah.
you know, you've really got to have your stuff.
That wasn't only the venue. That
Yeah.
was some manager that was managing this band. That was also like, I think it was his first time. Like
Yeah.
we had a bit of an argument, but you know, I left it at that. That there's a venue managers and then there's booking agents. So a venue manager is like what Matt does. So he runs the day-to-day operations, and there's a booking agent who does predominantly the music side. But then there's some venues that blend them together. They don't have the money or the resources for both, so they'll just get the one to do them both. But no, I definitely agree with your point that musicians or artists, or if you're performing for the crowd that's at the venue, then you're an employee for that period of time.
Yeah, and definitely, it's really kind of like a gig takes a lot more organisation than you would think. Like, you know, the amount of, you know, unpreparedness on part of the musicians, on part of, you know, the people that are running it.
Across the board.
Yeah, it's just across the board. So you really do kind of have to have your shit together like weeks in advance to like smoothly run it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you make a mistake, own it and fix it, and you know, deal with it yourself.
Yeah,
Don't put it on other
responsibility.
people, because we went down to Sydney for a show. I don't know why. Yeah, we went down to Sydney for a show, and the person who was organising it didn't organise a door person, and then was sort of like, and I'd driven up that the day before. It was a 9-hour drive, and I was driving back that night.
We
so it was like,
sacrificed a lot to
it
get
was
there.
I was running on like 3 hours sleep, and we still had to drive through the night to get back to Melbourne for a gig the next day. But yeah, the person who was organising it was like, "Oh, we don't have a door person." I was thinking like, you know, you do half of it and I do half of it, and I'm like, this is not my gig.
Yeah.
No, you deal with, like, I appreciate, you know, you trying to sort of mend the situation with me, but I'm not fixing your mistake. Like, that's you.
And don't be shady. Like, be upfront if you've made a mistake, because shit does happen. We know that,
Yeah,
especially
it's perfectly acceptable to
Yeah.
make mistakes. You know, there are casualties in this whole live music thing.
Yeah,
for
where
sure.
it gets messy is when you try to hide your mistakes and patch up your
worst
mistakes.
idea.
You know, just be upfront, be vocal,
Yeah, it goes both
communicate.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah, with
Definitely.
like musicians and, you know, people working at the venue, just and other artists to other artists.
Yeah,
If you've made a commitment to do something and then you've failed to do it, just be vocal about it, talk about it,
Yeah.
so you can fix the problem early before it like gets crucial. You know.
Yeah, of course. So obviously last week we talked about artists getting innovative in these challenging times, but we didn't go quite in depth to it. So what I wanted to talk about with this one is just kind of new ways that artists are writing songs and working on ideas without actually being in contact with each other. And so what Franco's kind of done in response to this is we aren't practicing as much, like 5 of us in a room, just because it's not, there's a risk involved to that. So we're trying to eliminate the risk, and we've actually created like kind of a Google Drive thing where we can all contribute ideas and kind of create a digital workspace for us to flesh things out, because we've obviously got a lot of kind of, I don't want to use the word dead time on our hands now, but
Free time.
yeah,
Time you can commit to
and
writing.
we have to, you know, rethink our approach, you know.
I feel that,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Like, I was meant to be releasing stuff and having like a like release date for it,
Launch
and then like
party,
a launch
yeah.
party
Yeah.
and everything, and it's just kind of like, well, we can't really do that. So in the meantime, it's like, it's a really good opportunity to create content, especially for, like, I don't know about you, but I love doing live stuff that I kind of forget about the content side and the digital side. It's it's not me. Like, I don't understand people who they're just like like online influencers. Like, I just don't get that.
Yeah.
Like, but it's interesting. Like, I like props to you for being able to like document yourself every day and like find new innovative ways to sort of show yourself on the internet. Like, that's very interesting. Like TikTok and all that stuff. Like, I haven't looked too much into it because like, I don't know, it's quite cringy and like people are loving that.
Yo, plays are plays.
But
Like,
plays
if
are
you're
plays.
gonna-
It's
People doing
true.
TikToks to
Yeah,
a few of our songs.
yeah.
It's so funny.
Stay tuned
Yeah.
for the Exude TikTok account.
Oh no.
Yeah, Anthony on the TikTok.
Yes.
Samantha, you want to go on the TikTok? That's
Anthony, would you be happy to run the TikToks? You would be.
That's really interesting you say that because you've got like 30K followers on Instagram, don't you?
Yeah, but that was
How do you like do you think more about what you're posting and what you're portraying, or do you just it's just a number? Do you just get it out there?
yeah.
Like, what's your view on the whole
It's-
social media thing?
I don't know. It's a weird because I know it's
necessary evil, isn't it?
yeah. That's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
how I look at it, and I know a lot of people are like, it's like my everything and
Yeah.
everything like that. But I don't know. Like, I feel like my life is my life, and I don't like it when people are like, because you have to make it look a certain way, and that's what I don't like about it. Because you can look like the coolest like person on earth and like have everything, and you could even look like a person who's rich and has it all going for you, but behind that, who are you really?
Yeah.
And that's what gets me going, is like when you're not being true to yourself even online. I hate that shit.
100%.
I'm not about it, and I get people are like that, and that's just how that's their lifestyle.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep quotation marks, but it's just, I don't know, I'm
It's sad.
quite
Almost.
like, yeah,
I
it
feel
is
like
sad.
It's super
Like,
easy to spot though.
it
It's
is. I know.
super
I
easy to
know when
spot.
that. Like that's
Yeah.
why I wrote that song called
Yeah.
"Envy." It was about like how certain women in media sort of portray a certain way that you need to look in order to get likes. It's like, well, I have to sexualize myself now because how else am I going to get views?
Yeah.
Or I have to be really fucking ridiculously like do something like crazy in order to get views. People are going out of their way to get views, and that's what I don't like. Like, I feel like if you like something, you like something. I shouldn't have to try and push you to like me.
Definitely.
You know? And even like when I'm performing, I'm doing me, like, and if people are loving that, cool. But if you don't, awesome. That's your opinion. I don't care. But like it's a whole enigma. Like, I don't know, like I want to get better with it because I know I'm really not the best person with my media. Like, I'm trying to like post up like even like just little dance videos, but it's nothing personal. Like all the stuff that I put up is just like my creative stuff.
And
So
it's
like,
not because someone else has told you to do it.
no, I'm just like, cool, I feel like sharing this. Oh, I'm having a bit of a dance. Like, yeah, here you go. Like, you
And
can
then
have a look.
you
Like,
find something that like clicks with other people, and that's something that you can work on or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to be genuine as much as I can with that.
Yeah, 100%.
To a certain extent. Obviously, sometimes you want to make things look nice and you want to do that, but just make sure you're being true to yourself at the end of the day. I think a lot of people will miss that, and they're like, nah, but like I want people to see me this way, or like, I don't know, like for me, I like to show like myself with and without makeup to show that I can be myself to the fullest and I'm comfortable in my own skin. And I think everyone should get to that point, whether you're a boy or girl, like you should be comfortable in yourself. And if you're not, then don't show people that. Like if you're introverted or if you're extroverted, like show who you really are. Like again, like I'm not trying to take a stab at anyone specifically or any groups or anything like that. Like do you at the end of the day. If being extreme is you, I'm not saying that that's bad either. So yeah, I guess I just want people to be genuine. Like,
Yeah, it's kind of like that old
yeah.
saying: if you try to please everyone, you're not going to please anyone.
no,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely, especially with an artist, it's kind of unfortunate but necessary in this day and age to have a online persona, and kind of the concept of an online persona kind of does remove a layer of authenticity
Yeah.
already, but it's kind of about accepting that and being able to at least not kind of blunt the message of what you're all about too much through
I
this
think
kind
to
of
accentuate is good.
yeah.
I think that's a
Definitely.
really good thing. And to, like, obviously not paint yourself in a new light or anything like that, or remodeling yourself in a sense, but just accentuating the person or artist you are.
No, definitely.
That's not bad. Like,
or
if you,
components of yourself. If there's
Yeah.
like something specific about you that maybe in real life isn't as exaggerated as it is when you're playing your character or whatever. Because I sort of disagree with what you're saying. artists need a character to stand out. Like if
Yeah.
you're just like you can just be
But
yourself.
it doesn't
but
have to be a character.
no,
Yeah,
but,
but then-
when
but
I
then-
say the
but
word
then a lot of
character, that
people
doesn't
are-
necessarily mean it has to be artificial. It
Right.
just it can be exaggerated. You know, parts of your life,
I
and
get
like
that.
that's just how the industry is. Like
Fair enough.
I
But
get
but I feel like that the way that is kind of leads like people to make judgments about your music or about the kind of shit that you play before they even hear it, just because of like the aesthetic, and people get so caught up in like, oh, okay, this is the aesthetic. You know, it's the aesthetic that fits this genre that will appeal to this people, and that's just kind of goes.
Oh, you're
against
talking
it.
about marketing.
Not necessarily even marketing, but
No.
like trying to like create this image of yourself that you want people to see, and hiding away the things that you don't want people to see, which I just think's inauthentic. But like I'm not saying that it's not necessary for you to have social media and to push things out there, because it certainly is.
I wouldn't say inauthentic. I would say that it's
There's a degree of separation involved.
yeah, no, it's exaggerated. So like yeah.
Well, thanks, Arnt Mae, for joining us this week.
No
it was an
worries.
absolute pleasure.
Anytime.
Make sure you go check her out. Drop the socials.
Yeah.
Links will be in description.
Links will be in the description.
Yeah.
Where can our viewers find you?
Where can you always find
Where
me?
can our viewers find you?
Oh, where can you all can find me on Instagram? I'm most active on there. I do have Facebook, but don't use it as often. I'm trying to get better at that. As we were discussing before, media is my friend. But yeah, so on Instagram, I'm a voodoo, all one word. IMAE voodoo, pretty easy. Hit me up on there. Check out what I'm doing. New content will be available as well. Got a single I'll be releasing soon, so I'm really excited. A few promo videos will also be released. Working with the best videographer in all of
Braden.
Australia.
Watch out.
The man.
So
Mad.
Braden, Fun Films.
Indeed.
What a sick dude. Yeah. So check it out.
Mad. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Any last remarks?
Hit us up in the emails if you want to get in contact. Our
Shaemus
email
is
is
single.
podcast@exudespotlight.com. I'm single for life. We'll see you later.
Peace
Thank
out.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.